Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Saturday, the weekend is here. I hope you're having a good start to it, wherever you're enjoying watching this or listening to this around the world. I say enjoying. I hope you're enjoying it. And why shouldn't you be? Because we're going to be talking all things Arsenal once again. I hope you had a good Friday night last night to kick in the weekend. Big weekend, of course. Manchester United versus Arsenal. Doesn't quite have the same tinge that it used to back in the day, but it's still a massive game, no doubt about it. And Arsenal looking to sort of build on that really morale boosting win in the Champions League in midweek. It's been a couple of games since they've won in the Premier League, so they really need to pick up points. Yes, the title might have gone. Liverpool might be sailing off into the sunset in that regard, but you still want to finish the season as strongly as possible, get some momentum, because that can obviously help in the Champions League as well. So still plenty to play for Arsenal. We're going to talk about that in today's show. Got some comments and questions from you guys. We'll look at what Jorginho's been saying ahead of the game. We'll look at what Ruben Amorim's been saying ahead of the game as well. Some interesting stuff from him. But like I said, it is a big game for Arsenal. They were training yesterday at the Emirates, as you saw, and as I said in yesterday's show, Mikel was doing his press conference from the Emirates. There was an event going on yesterday that he was at, and so it was just easier for everyone to have the presser there and to bring the players there and to do training session there. And it is a big game for Arsenal. We're in that strange stage of the season now, aren't we, when it comes to the Premier League? And unfortunately, it's going to go on for a fair while because everyone knows Liverpool are going to win the title, unless barring the most unbelievable slip-ups. And even then, Arsenal have to win basically every single game, which might be a bit of a stretch given the limited resources they have up front. So I think we can all accept that the title's gone, but you still have plenty to play for. You still want to at least make sure you finish second. You still want to make sure you don't get sucked into a sort of bit of a dogfight for the Champions League places below you. Man City are playing Nottingham Forest today, so one of the two teams immediately below Arsenal are going to drop points as well. So Arsenal need to win this game. It's against a poor United side, let's face it. They're not a good United side. Yes, it's Old Trafford. Yes, it's Man United. On their day, they can still turn up and they can cause teams problems and they can surprise teams and they can beat teams. We know that. It's happened before. But it's still not a great United side. You would think that their focus is going to be more on the Europa League than it is on the Premier League. They drew 1-1 with Real Sociedad yesterday, so there's still everything to play for in the second leg back at Old Trafford next week. Amorim's got very limited resources as well because, like Arsenal, they've got plenty of injuries, and they've got injuries across the board rather than just sort of focused in the attacking areas. They've got injuries, across the board as well. So they're going to be missing some key players. So I really feel like this is something Arsenal have to go and take advantage of. They're going to be going there full of confidence after what happened against PSV. I mean, if a 7-1 win away from home in the Champions League doesn't boost your confidence levels, then what will? They know they can score goals. The last couple of games, we were kind of looking at it, thinking, where the hell are these goals going to come from? But they answered that on Wednesday. Or Tuesday, sorry. Yes, PSV played into Arsenal's hands. They gave Arsenal space, but Arsenal still exploited it and they still stuck the ball in the back of the net. And you would think that they can take that into that game. Mikel was asked about it during his presser yesterday. What changed? There was lots of players getting up in the box. Is that something you've done differently? And he was like, look, we've got to find other ways to score. And we know that. We've got to find other ways to score because we're missing the key players who normally score our goals. And maybe it's understandable for the first couple of games that it's taken a while to get used to a new setup, players playing in different positions, players being asked to do different things. And it was very poor against West Ham. It was better against Nottingham Forest, sorry, not Notts Forest. Any Forest fans watching would kill me for saying that. So it was better against Nottingham Forest, but the goals still didn't come. But then it really clicked into gear against PSV. And you'd hope the training session yesterday at the Emirates, what the players were working on was just more of the same. Get forward into the box if you can. Support the attack if you can. Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard, get closer to those central areas, cause problems for the defenders, pull them out of position so the other players can have a little bit of space. That has to be the plan. And this is a United team. We say PSV played into Arsenal's hands. I kind of feel like this Man United team might as well. Amorim's good tactically. Well, he's not really shown that too much since he's been at United, but I still credit Amorim as being a good tactical manager. So he might see that and he might say to United, look, just do everything to stay tight and stay compact because Arsenal struggle against this. But I don't see it in this United team. I think there's going to be space for Arsenal to exploit. So they just need to make sure that they play well and they perform on the day. Sort of looking at what, who might start this game. I don't think there's going to be widespread changes from PSV. In fact, I think it's probably going to be the same team. I think the Lewis Skelly Calafiori one's interesting. I mean, Arteta spoke at length about Lewis Skelly yesterday in the presser. He did it in the live section, which you would have seen. He did it in the embargoed section as well. He revealed in the embargo section that he had sort of one-to-one talks with Lewis Skelly yesterday about the substitution, about the yellow card, about diving in, about some reckless challenges, about putting him in a situation where you can you can sort of get yourself into problems. He sort of went a little bit further than he did against in the live section. I'm just trying to bring up the quotes for you now. I should have had this prepared actually, but he did go into it a bit. Let me see. It said it was today. He was asked if you'd spoken to him properly, one-to-one. He said it was today that I did it. When the dust had settled, it was to talk openly. What can we learn from that situation? How can we expose the team with an error? What are the things that we have to try and avoid without losing his essence as a player? That's what we have to do. Understand what the line is, because he is a superb player. He has the attitude, he has courage, what he transmits. Certainly, we have to maintain that. It's just understanding the risk rewards, what part of the pitch you're in, and when you have to bet certain things that can give you big rewards. And sometimes guys stay away from the bet because it is not good for us. It was quite clear that we had a liability there against PSV with the yellow card, and that's why I took him off. It wasn't a moment to take any risks. So learn a lesson. The line is really thin in sport, and he needs to understand that. So there's been lots of spotlight again on Lewis Skelly. So would Arteta consider taking him out of the firing line a little bit for the game against United? Maybe so. I think that's the only area I can see, barring an injury that we don't know about. I think that's the only area that I can really see him being tempted to make a change tomorrow. I think Marino will start up front. I think, again, it'll be Trossard and Ranieri on either side of it. I think it'll be Partey, Rice, Odegaard, and I can't see White coming in for this one. I think White will start his first game back from injury against PSV in midweek. So it'll be Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and then it's just Calafiori or Lewis Skelly. I think it'll be Lewis Skelly, and I think he'll play him, and I think he'll leave Calafiori as that sort of attacking change in the second half, because we know he can add the impetus going forward with his driving runs. So I think that's what we'll see. But let me know your thoughts on it. I'll be doing the preview show in the morning. I am going up to Old Trafford tomorrow, so I'm going to be leaving pretty early doors to get up there in time. But I will try and do a preview show before I go, just quickly looking at, doing my predicted 11. And as always, I'd love to get your views on that. So ahead of that preview show, if you send in the 11s that you want to see, tell me why you'd be playing Calafiori or Lewis Skelly. Who would you prefer to play in that position tomorrow and why? Let me know your thoughts on that. Give me 11s, as I said, and I'll pull them together and I'll get them included in tomorrow morning's preview show before I head up to Manchester. Unfortunately, I've never seen Arsenal win at Old Trafford, so I'm hoping I'm going to break that duck tomorrow. I didn't go last season. I didn't get in. They didn't give me accreditation. They've given me accreditation this year. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed I break my duck and actually see Arsenal win a game at Old Trafford. Jorginho's been talking about it. The last line of this, I think, is interesting, because that FA Cup game, the third round defeat on penalties at the Emirates in January, still winds me up. I still think about it from time to time and just get so frustrated at how Arsenal managed to not win that game, to throw it away the way they did. Had so many chances to miss penalties, losing on the shootout, them, really glorious chances for Havertz and things like that. And they somehow managed to not win that game against 10-man Manchester United. And as I said, that still winds me up. And I'm sure that must really wind the players up. And looking at that last line from Jorginho there, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the quote. I can imagine it absolutely does. So this is what he had to say. He said, it's always a tricky game against United because it's a big game. And in these games, with these teams competing, you never know what can happen, no matter the situations of the team. We need to stay focused on what we need to do and to win this game, because it's very important for us. We're still feeling it, the FA Cup loss, and we want to win this game. That little line there suggests to me the players are going to have an extra little bit in their stomachs tomorrow, I think, going to this game. If I feel it, if I'm still wound out about it, they are. And this is a team that does very well on using past results, past defeats, or past incidents to wind them up and get them extra motivated for a game. So the fact that he's thrown that in, I just thought, if he's thinking that, they're all thinking that. They've probably all spoken about it. And I just wonder if we will see a bit of a revenge mission tomorrow against United, and Arsenal looking to take out their frustrations about what happened in the FA Cup on United tomorrow. Fingers crossed that's the case, because I'd love to go up there and absolutely slap them. And we'll wait and see if that happens. Amorim's been talking ahead of the game as well. I thought this was quite interesting from him. It's got lots of coverage. He was asked yesterday about Arteta and what he did at Arsenal, and whether he sees similarities in what he's having to do at Man United now to what Arteta had to do when he arrived at Arsenal. And Amorim said, "I will not have the time that Arteta had. I feel that Arsenal is a different club. I feel that Arsenal is a different club. It is a different club in that aspect. The way how Arteta dealt with that is an inspiration for everyone." I think in a way he's probably right. I think obviously I think United, I'm not sure he'd get the time Arteta, but the thing is there that he doesn't really point to is that in Arteta's first, so in the similar situations that they're in now, in Arteta's first 6 months, which Amorim has just had, Arteta changed things completely. He took over a team that were fighting relegation. We were basically on the verge of falling into the relegation battle. They were like 6 points above it. And he ended up finishing them, comfortably in mid-table. I think between December and the end of the season, they picked up the 4th most points of anyone in the Premier League. And he also won the FA Cup. So he gave himself time. He earned himself time for that little tricky period that came following after that. He'd sort of got himself credit in the bank for what he'd done in those first 6 months of turning things around, getting Arsenal up the table and winning a trophy. And so I think he earned himself the time. Amorim hasn't done that yet. He might do. He might win the Europa League, so we'll wait and see. But he's shown no signs of turning things around in the league. In fact, I think they've got worse than they were under Erik ten Hag, which is some doing. So he hasn't bought himself any time or got himself any credit in the bank that if he did survive a tricky period the following season, like Arteta did, he'd have that to fall back on. So I think it's different. I understand what he's saying in a way, but I think he's totally ignored the fact of what Arteta achieved in that first 6 months, half a season, when he arrived in December and picked up the pieces of the mess that Arsenal were when he arrived, and how he turned it around in a really short space of time, did very well in the Premier League and won the FA Cup. So I think it's slightly different. But obviously it's got loads of attention, those quotes. It's all over the back pages. It's all over the internet as well. Amorim, I won't have the time that Arteta did, but I think there is, when you look at it, you have to put it into context a little bit in terms of why maybe Arteta was able to survive the tricky period that followed. Moving on to some questions and comments before I wrap this one up. Classic Dan Smith says, for United, I agree, keep the same lineup. But for PSV, I would rotate quite a bit. So my lineup for PSV, Dan's lineup for PSV would be Raya, Partey, White, Kivior, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Marino, Rice, Trossard, Sterling, Nwaneri. Maybe you could give Nathan Butler a day or Cabia a game up top. I don't think either of the youngsters will start the game. Arteta will still take this game pretty seriously. He will go strong. If you're expecting absolutely massive changes, all the kids to play, that's not going to happen. This is Mikel Arteta we're talking about. We've seen from previous experience that's not going to happen. But he will rotate, no doubt about it. I wouldn't be surprised if Neto plays this game rather than Raya. I don't see why Raya would have to play. I think White starts. I think one of the two centre-backs will start, either Saliba or Gabriel. But I think White will start at right back. I think you have to give him some minutes in this game from the start and start building him up a bit. So I think it'll probably be White and then maybe Saliba, Kivior, and then Tierney or Zinchenko potentially at left back. Jorginho will definitely come in for that game. Probably Rice will play, and maybe Nwaneri will play in that sort of 8 role, maybe, and then you have Sterling on the right hand side. I don't know, but I think there will be some changes. He definitely will rotate a little bit, but he's not going to go massive. Some of the key starters will still play, and I think if there's going to be if the youngsters do get any minutes, it will be off the subs bench. And I do hope that Nathan gets some minutes. I think it'll be a reward for him for what he's done in the last 2 months. He's sat on the bench every single game. He's not come on yet, but he's trained with the first team. He's been a key first team member. And that I think deserves a bit of a reward for the work he's done, traveling up and down the country with the first team, what he's done in training with the first team. It's been really, really important. And it'd just be nice in this game, because if it's not going to happen in this game, it's not going to happen, because, you hope Martinelli and Saka might be back relatively quickly, or certainly Martinelli might be back after the international break. So that's going to limit his chances even more. So it's not going to happen on Wednesday night or Wednesday night, isn't it? I don't think it will happen. So it'd be nice to see Nathan get some minutes. I think a bit of a reward from for what he's done over the last couple of months. The delightfully named Turd Ferguson 97 says, so when, if Saka and Martinelli get back, what does Arteta do with the 9? Could we see Martinelli there, stick with Marino or Trossard? I mean, it's another option, isn't it? I would like to see Martinelli play centrally. I don't think he's going to rip it up completely, though, Arteta. I wouldn't surprise me if he still uses Marino, so he has that focal point. I think if you're playing, so much of the good stuff that Arsenal did against PSV, or a lot of the good stuff Arsenal did, was because where Marino was and because some of his hold-up play and bringing others into play. And I think if you've got Martinelli playing with his back to goal like that, you take a big chunk away from Martinelli for one. And I'm not sure he's the sort of player to do that well anyway. So he is an option there, certainly in the second half of games or something like that. But I still think it would be more likely that you play Marino there, or you move Trossard central and you'd have Martinelli playing off the left. But be a nice option to have, wouldn't it, after these last couple of months, to suddenly finally get one of Martinelli and Saka, or both, back. That would be nice. And John says, remember this Calafiori quote: when I was a kid, I think like everyone, I was a striker and I liked to score many goals. He said that in a pre-Genoa press conference. Yes, but like he said, when he says, I think like everyone, everyone, when they grew up playing football, wanted to be a striker. Everyone wanted the glory of scoring the goals, didn't it? It's not till you get to, I don't know, 13, 14 or 12, 13, 14 that people start moving into positions and suddenly think, actually, I might be a bit of a defender. I like tackling and all that sort of stuff. So I don't think that necessarily means that he should be playing striker now. I can see some of the attributes he has where he might be an option. But I still, as I said yesterday, I think if you put him with his back to goal, like Marino's been asked to do, I think you take away an awful lot of the good that we see in Calafiori, the chaos that we see in Calafiori, the driving runs from deep that we see from Calafiori. Suddenly a completely different thing when you're being asked to play with your back to goal. So I get what you're saying, but still, for me, I still think Marino's slightly the better option in that position for now. And that's it from me today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Appreciate your time. As always, do have a very good Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. Like I said, I'll be back in the morning for the preview show before making my way up to Old Trafford for Man United versus Arsenal. Until then, speak to you soon. Bye-bye.